The bread had been cooling on the wooden shelf behind the ranch kitchen when the twins took it. It wasn't greed that guided their hands, nor defiance. It was hunger, sharp and constant, the kind that made the world feel narrow and unforgiving. The Apache sisters had been surviving on roots and scraps for days, hiding in dry gullies and abandoned arroyos, avoiding roads and riders alike. When they saw the ranch lights glowing at dusk, they hesitated. They knew the risks. But hunger is louder than fear when it goes unanswered for too long. They moved quietly, almost reverently, breaking the loaf in half before they could even take a second step away. They didn't make it far. A shout split the air, followed by the thunder of boots and the clatter of rifles being shifted into hands. Ranch hands surrounded them, suspicion hardening their faces before a single word was spoken. No questions were asked. No explanation allowed. To the men, the act was simple, theft. To the twins, it was survival. Rough hands seized their arms, twisting them behind their backs as the bread fell into the dirt. One sister tried to speak, her voice shaking as she explained they meant no harm. Her words were ignored. Another man spat near their feet, muttering something about setting an example. The twins were marched to the edge of the property where an old cottonwood tree leaned against the wind, its bark split and scarred with age. Ropes were pulled tight around their wrists, cutting into skin already worn raw by travel. The knots were tied quickly, efficiently, without cruelty in motion but with cruelty in outcome. When the men stepped back, satisfied, the sisters stood bound to the tree, their backs straight despite the tremble in their arms. The ranch hands walked away laughing, confident they had done their duty. As the sun sank lower, the desert cooled fast. The wind carried dust across the plain, stinging their eyes and lips. The twins leaned against the tree for support, whispering softly to one another in their native tongue, reminders to stay calm, to endure. Fear settled in slowly, heavier with each passing minute. They had heard stories of people left like this overnight. Some were found in the morning, some were not. Shadows stretched long across the land. Coyotes called in the distance, their voices sharp and wild. The sisters fell silent, listening, their breathing shallow. Their wrists burned, their shoulders ached, but worse than the pain was the uncertainty. Would anyone come, or had this place already decided their fate? Just as the last light dipped below the horizon, a distant sound carried on the wind slow, steady hoofbeats. Too far away to be sure, too faint to bring hope. Still, one sister lifted her head, eyes fixed on the darkening trail, holding on to the smallest possibility that someone somewhere would see them as more than a crime left tied to a tree. The rider noticed the tree before he noticed the girls. It was the rope that caught his eye, too straight, too deliberate against the crooked trunk of the cottonwood. The rancher slowed his horse, narrowing his gaze as the wind carried a faint sound toward him. Not an animal, not the creak of wood. Voices, low, strained, human. He dismounted without hurry, the way men do when they've learned that haste can make things worse. As he stepped closer, the shapes resolved into two young women bound side by side, their shoulders pressed to the tree, wrists raw beneath the rope. They went still when they saw him, fear flashing across their faces before they masked it with practiced stillness. The rancher stopped a few paces away. He did not reach for his gun. He did not raise his voice. "Who did this?" he asked simply. The twins exchanged a glance. One of them spoke, her English careful, shaped by use but not comfort. "We took bread. We were hungry." The rancher looked at the rope, then at their hands, then back to their faces. He had seen hunger before, seen it hollow out cheeks and harden eyes. He had also seen what fear did when it settled too deep. The men who worked nearby ranches were quick to punish and slow to listen. He knew that too. He sighed once, quietly, as if the situation offended him more than angered him. "No one deserves this for bread," he said. He stepped forward, pulling a knife from his belt. The twins stiffened instinctively, muscles tightening, but he paused, meeting their eyes first. "I'm cutting you loose," he said. "Stay still." The blade slid through the rope with a soft rasp. One strand, then another. As the tension released, the sisters nearly collapsed, legs unsteady, arms trembling as blood rushed back into their hands. The rancher steadied them without touching more than necessary, guiding them to sit against the tree. He waited while they caught their breath. The night had deepened, stars sharp overhead. Somewhere far off, a wolf called. The rancher glanced toward the sound, then back at the twins. "You can't stay here," he said. "Not tonight." One sister looked up. "They will come back." "Maybe," he answered honestly, "or someone worse." He stood, whistled softly. His horse stepped closer. From the saddlebag he pulled out a canteen and handed it to them. They drank in small, careful sips, gratitude written plainly on their faces. "I have a place," he continued. "Not fancy, but it's safe. You can eat, rest, then decide what comes next." The twins hesitated. Trust did not come easily, it never had. But the rope burns on their wrists still throbbed, and the darkness around them felt suddenly vast. One of them nodded. "We will go," she said. The rancher helped them mount behind him, one at a time, making sure they were steady. He did not ask their names yet. He did not ask where they were from. Some things, he knew, were better asked after warmth and food. As the horse turned toward the open land, the cottonwood faded into shadow behind them, silent again, empty of its cruel purpose. And for the first time that night, the twins allowed themselves to believe they might see morning not as prisoners or thieves, but simply as two people given another chance. The ranch sat low against the land. A weathered house and a barn crouched beneath the wide sky. A single lantern burned near the porch, its light steady, unafraid of the dark. When the horse slowed, the twins felt the tension they'd carried all night begin to loosen, not vanish, just ease enough to breathe. The rancher dismounted first and helped them down. He tied the horse, then nodded toward the door. "Inside," he said, "it's warm." The house smelled of wood smoke and coffee grounds. He set the lantern on the table and poured water into a basin. "Wash your hands," he told them. "I'll get food." The twins obeyed, glancing around. The place was simple: 2 chairs, a narrow bed against the wall, shelves lined with tools and books whose spines were cracked with use. Nothing here suggested wealth. Everything suggested care. When the rancher returned, he set bread and beans on the table along with a slab of cheese. He sat back, arms folded, giving them space. They ate slowly at first, then faster, hunger finally outrunning fear. He watched without judgment. "My name's Eli," he said at last. One of the twins swallowed and nodded. "I'm Nita, this is Sanny." Eli inclined his head. "You're safe here tonight." They exchanged another glance. Nita spoke again. "They said we stole from the trading post, but the bread was old, thrown away." Eli's jaw tightened, not in anger at them, but at the memory of men who punished need. "Doesn't matter," he said. "No one gets tied to a tree for that." Silence settled, comfortable now. Outside, the wind brushed the walls. Inside, the lantern hummed. After they finished eating, Eli showed them the spare room, little more than a cot and a blanket, but clean and quiet. "Sleep," he said. "We'll talk in the morning." Morning came soft and pale. Sunlight stretched across the floor, dust motes floating like slow snow. Nita woke first, startled by the quiet. No shouting, no ropes, just the sound of a kettle from the kitchen. Eli stood at the stove, sleeves rolled, pouring coffee. "You slept," he said. "Good." They ate again, eggs this time, and with food came courage. Sanny asked the question that had been sitting between them since the night before. "Why did you help us?" Eli considered. "Because I could," he said, "and because I've been hungry, and because leaving you there would have followed me longer than any trouble helping you might bring." He didn't press them for plans. He offered choices. Work if they wanted it, mending fences, tending the garden, or a ride to the next town, no strings attached. He made it clear they owed him nothing. They stepped outside together, the day unfolding wide and blue. The land felt different in daylight, less like a threat, more like a promise. Nita breathed in and let it out slow. "We'll stay," she said, "for a while." Eli nodded. "Then we'll make a start." And in that simple agreement, no chains, no debts, the ranch became more than shelter. It became a place where fear loosened its grip, and the twins learned that sometimes help came quietly, without asking for anything in return. Days passed, then weeks, and the ranch settled into a rhythm that felt earned rather than imposed. Nita and Sanny learned the land the way Eli had, by paying attention. They fixed fences where wire sagged, gathered eggs at dawn, and worked the small garden that clung stubbornly to the soil. Eli showed them what he knew, then stepped back, letting them find their own ways. He never hovered. He never kept score. Trust grew in the quiet moments, in shared meals, in the easy silence of work done side by side. At night they sat on the porch, watching the sky turn from gold to violet, the twins speaking of their people in fragments, memories of songs, of winters past moving from place to place, of loss carried without ceremony. Eli listened, asking when invited, learning when to be quiet. One afternoon, riders appeared on the distant ridge. Nita saw them first, her body going tense. Old fear stirred. Eli followed her gaze and nodded once. "If they come here, they talk to me," he said. "You don't owe anyone answers." The riders never came closer. They turned back toward the road, dust trailing behind them like something already leaving the past. That night Nita took a small bundle from her pack. She placed it on the table between them, 2 carved wooden tokens, smoothed by hand. "From our mother," she said, "for those who show honor." Eli shook his head. "I didn't help for payment." Nita met his eyes. "Then take them as memory," she said, "so we carry this forward together." He accepted them, understanding the weight of the gesture. When the time came for the twins to decide their next step, it was their choice alone. They spoke of a settlement north, where others from their people gathered, a place that promised safety, though nothing was certain. Eli offered to ride with them part of the way. He packed food and water without fuss. At dawn they saddled the horse. The air was cool, the world clean with possibility. Nita and Sanny stood a moment, looking back at the house, the lantern hook by the door, the fence mended clean. "You gave us more than shelter," Sanny said. "You gave us back the sense that we are not alone." Eli nodded. "You reminded me why that matters." They embraced briefly, no ceremony, no promises beyond what could be kept. Then the twins walked north, side by side, steady and unafraid. Eli watched until the land swallowed their figures, the way it always did. He returned to the ranch and to his work. The days went on. The world remained hard in places, but something had shifted. The cottonwood at the edge of the property stood empty now, just a tree again, its purpose undone. And that was enough. Because sometimes a life changes not with grand gestures, but with one moment of refusal, to look away, to accept cruelty as normal. Eli had refused. Nita and Sanny had endured, and all 3 carried that forward into whatever came next.